All right. Well, this is exciting. Here we are again, another installment of our video interview series titled Our Stories, Our Time. How is everyone doing? If you're joining us live on Facebook, welcome. It's great to have you here. If you are watching us on YouTube or on PadNet, it's wonderful to be seen by all of you. So, want to really thank you for tuning in today. I'm Carolina Quesada with the Nonprofit Partnership, and I want to welcome you to yet another interview in our series that we've titled Our Stories, Our Time. And in this series, we interview nonprofit leaders to understand how organizations are navigating through current times, learning more about the history of the nonprofits that are doing great work in our community and really learning more about the people behind the organizations, who's leading the organizations. And today we have a very special guest. Now, before I introduce him, the Nonprofit Partnership would like to thank the Port of Long Beach for their very generous support of our series. And with that, I will hand the mic over to you, Darick. Darick Simpson is the board president of the African American Cultural Center of Long Beach. And what a pleasure it is to feature you and to learn more about the African American Cultural Center of our city of Long Beach. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure and honor to be here on behalf of the African American Cultural Center of Long Beach.
Excellent. Thank you, Darick. And for those of you who know you, they know that you are very committed to our community.
Yes.
You are an amazing leader in our community, and not just from the perspective of organizational leadership, but from so many different ways, right? It's so important to really tie the different movements and the different organizations that are happening in community together to find bridges to collaborate a little bit more. And of all the folks that I know really have a focus on that, you definitely come to the top because you care very deeply about collaboration and really weaving a stronger network in our community. So want to thank you for that. But tell us a little bit more about yourself. What brought you to the nonprofit sector? Take us through that journey a bit.
Well, I'm an old person, so it's a long journey. I don't know if you have enough time for all of that. But my prior to this position, I'll just go back there. I was honored to serve as executive director of Long Beach Community Action Partnership. And given that this interview is going nationally, if not further, community action agencies cover every territory and county in the United States and its territories. So community action is widespread, but it's about helping families move from poverty to self-sustainability. So in my capacity as executive director for 13 years, when I took over, it was 24 staff and about 1.3 million, and a marginal reputation in terms of the services and quality thereof. And when I left, thanks to an incredible team that we accumulated over the years, 13 years later, we were at our high end, maybe around 17 million and 120 staff. And that was done because of being strategic in our thinking, being a collaborative partner, such as what you said. In fact, that collaboration that allowed the major jump was to get the LIHEAP contract, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, which enabled Long Beach CAP to provide weatherization services and pay utility bills throughout the eastern LA County area, which was our territory. But before that, I created the LAMP program. I believe as a leader, we all should play to our strengths on our team. Uh, when you look at who you are, I'm a facilitator nationally, for instance, of Clifton Strengths, as you know. And
Yes.
and I believe, being a former athlete as well, that playing as a team, as the proverb says, you can run fast alone or far together, right? And so
Hmm.
if you can gather a team that believes in the mission, it's incredible what you can accomplish working on the same page with a clear vision. So at Long Beach CAP, I played to my strengths initially when I went there. I had a passion for youth. I had voted for the Grammy Awards from '08 to 2014, so I had a passion for writing and music as a creative mind. Um, I looked at the mission that we had in terms of helping people. Uh, I looked at the fact that Long Beach is larger than Atlanta and Cleveland and Miami and many major cities. But when you look at what they say about Long Beach in the 6 o'clock news, there's nothing, first of all. And if it is something, it's negative. And so I
Mm,
wanted to give Long Beach a voice. But at the same time, if our mission was to help families move from poverty to self-sustainability, I felt one of the biggest things that I could do was reach back to the next generation and teach youth in our community how to tell their story. Like you're having me tell the story here on Facebook. There was no
right,
Facebook back then, or it was just, getting its legs.
right.
How do we tell the positive stories that balance the negativity that we hear? How do we give the insight on our community? And so I created LAMP, Leadership Academy Mentoring Program, and I used uh, music production because Thomas Dawson is the music director of the Commodores, and he's a good friend of mine. And so
Mm-hmm.
he was teaching music, and we used video production. And the point was, well, we're in the entertainment capital of the world. If we want to make livable wage jobs for kids and adults to move from where they are to where they want to be, let's teach them skills behind the cameras as well as in front of the camera. The same was true of the music element in the studio. And then we used graphic arts. Don't go out there and do graffiti on the side of skyscrapers or on bus stops. Why don't you have your artwork captured and on a billboard because you got your own designer label, or channel that negative energy into positive energy? And so fast forward, the LAMP program became nationally recognized. We took 12 young men to the White House as guests of the Grammy
Wow, that's
Museum,
great.
and First Lady Michelle Obama. One of our teams was asked to sing for the Ray Charles stamp unveiling. A group of our teams were asked to sing for the James Brown family for a tribute to James Brown. We had some great experiences at Long Beach Cap, but that was that journey. It was being creative. And I think anyone who's in a leadership position looking at this video, uh, is first and foremost, be you in that space. Don't sell out to anything other than being you in that space. And so if you're going to be you in that space, the first thing to do is to ensure that the mission that you signed up to be a champion for will allow you to be you unequivocally, right? That you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be reserved in pursuing that mission, because if you're going to be successful, you got to put all of your energy into it, and that takes a draining amount of energy to give. And so, therefore, be ready for that. Place yourself in the right positions at the right time. And I think at Long Beach Cap, with the LAMP program, what happens? We teach kids how to do video of their own. The public access contract became available.
Mm-hmm.
Went for it. They said, "Hey, Darick, if you get this grant, we'll, as the city, release, I think it was $700,000. I got the grant. They released it, and there is the public access digital network so that Long Beach can tell its own story, right?
Yes.
And help to balance the negativity, because we are a great city. We're an international city. And I just felt that that was important, right? And so that was that journey. Marissa Semense is the executive director. The beautiful thing about attending their 45th anniversary just this past week was seeing her on that platform, that in front of that audience, introducing her team, right? Uh,
Mm,
Knowing that she was my right hand, my left hand, she was there, she had my back. People would say, "Aren't you afraid how smart she is and all this great thing she's doing?" I'm like, dude, if she can take my job, she should have my job.
mhm,
So as a leader, that's the other thing, is that you got to have confidence in you and own that space that you're in, but you can't be afraid to lift up those people on your team so that they
mm,
can be their best, so that they can shine,
mhm.
because the right thing happens for the right people. And so I think some people get sort of caught up in their own egos. And I say,
Yes.
leave egos, mottos, and logos outside the door, right? Just come in with the open mind and heart that we're here to serve a greater good. And I think we did that at Long Beach Cap. And I think that helps me to be what I am here at the Earl B. and Lorraine H. Miller Foundation. the spirit of collaboration, the spirit of creative thinking, the spirit of not leaving anyone behind, because we all deserve to have the opportunity to serve as our best me, as I would say. And
Yes.
these are the situations I find myself in, and it's a cool place to be.
Well, you know what else is a cool place to be is on the other side of this interview. Because I'm reminded how diverse your background is
Yeah.
and what a beautiful story we're coming to learn about you in that you're leveraging all of these different roles and they're all important to you and these are not necessarily roles and positions that you did a while ago and you kind of left that now. There's still this common thread that you continue to weave. And in the last few minutes, you know, we've come to learn from you that the spirit of social entrepreneurship that you've had in the kinds of programs that you've really been seeding and how you've been very intentional in helping to grow. You know, you use the example of Long Beach Cap.
Mhm.
um, and again, for those watching on PadNet, you know that there's a very direct, that's a very direct offshoot of a lot of this, to your point earlier, work that you did as well. And as a trainer and coach, Clifton Strength Finders is a great tool to really help coach and mentor people through this, you know, kind of reinforcing what those strengths are. So all of that is coalescing in this place where you're really able to help impact not just the nonprofit sector, because you did mention you are the president of the Miller Foundation, but also you know, by leading and supporting this really important organization for our community, which is the African American Cultural Center of Long Beach. So can you tell us a little bit about how the Cultural Center started, what was going on in the community during the time when there was I think a concerted focus on launching the Cultural Center?
Yes, well, right before I left to come to this position 4 years ago, Councilman L. Austin and other leaders convened a meeting at Rancho Los Alamitos, a community meeting of elders in the African American community and other stakeholders to talk about the opportunity, the need, and the benefits of having a cultural center. And many of the elders in the community were in attendance and other leaders as well, as I mentioned. And so that was the genesis, that meeting out there on the lawn. I'll never forget that evening of everybody being there for this positive possibility that's
Mhm.
called now the African American Cultural Center Long Beach. Uh, Fast forward then from that day with, again, Councilman Austin's leadership, there's the expo, this facility in the Bixby Knolls area that used to be a furniture store, I believe, years ago, that is now divided into spaces where about 8 nonprofits
Mhm.
sublease space in there. And so my predecessors on this board uh, had the vision to lease a space in the front of that expo building on Atlantic Avenue here in Long Beach. And that's where our quote gallery is. And so I wasn't involved. I was, uh, other than that initial event where I was trying to help capture video for PadNet TV, ironically. I was wearing that hat when I was there. Uh, I wasn't involved because, as I said, I was just transitioning into this position after
Mhm.
13 years at Long Beach Cap. I was honored to be selected as the new president of the Earl B. and Lorraine H. Miller Foundation here in Long Beach. And so I had to put all my energy here to be my best me in this space, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the AACC was moving forward. Um, and the expo has what's called First Friday, where they feature all the businesses for about a mile on Atlantic Avenue, and sort of a big open house, right? And so in the expo, all the nonprofits in there put on their best face for the community,
Mhm.
and we were very fortunate since our genesis to have Forgotten Images, which is David and Sharon McLucas. They own the largest collection of African American artifacts west of the Mississippi River. And if it's not the largest,
Wow.
it's one of the largest. I literally have been in a space as big as a high school gymnasium where you could walk up and down row by row like you were at a swap meet, but it was all artifacts,
Wow.
shackles from slavery, paintings, you named the theme, they probably had memorabilia or something from that theme, bells that rang in the slaves out of the fields, just on, right? And so the AACC Long Beach was really fortunate to have that partnership with funding, some of it from the city, some of it from grants, to be able to cover costs to feature those exhibits. And so that became sort of synonymous with the name AACC, was Forgotten Images, because it was so much history. I mean, right now, if you think about it, politically speaking, history is being taken out of the schools.
Mm,
Um, as opposed to being taught in the schools. And so as you fast forward then to uh, 2 years ago, finally, after several transitions of leadership on the board, I was contacted and asked, Darick, would you be open to joining the board? And I had just stepped down off of several major boards to take this position, so I didn't feel I had the capacity as a volunteer to do justice for something so important. But persistence worked, and I joined this
mm,
board. And within a month of me joining, the president stepped back and asked me to step up as president of the board. So that was sort of how I transitioned into this. Meanwhile, the Cultural Center's reputation for tabling at events in the community, being in the Martin Luther King parade,
yeah.
creating a contest for a logo design, all these things were sort of capturing the total African American community. I mean, for instance, you have the NAACP, or um, you have other groups like 100 Black Men, or you have fraternities and sororities in the African American culture. But the cultural center is the center of the universe of all of this, right? I mean, all of that is a part of the African American culture. So to me, that was intriguing to say that it's a heavy lift. It's an important thing to be responsible for, but nonetheless, it's not something that can fail. And if I can contribute to its success, then I think I owe it to my grandchildren and I owe it to this community to give my best, especially when, as I began this saying, that history is being taken out of the schools, right? The Long Beach is 85% of the African American students in Long Beach Unified School District are 1 to 2 years behind academically.
Wow.
56% of the Latino community
Mm-mm.
kids are are not passing English as a second language. And mind you, between the two minorities, they are the majority minority in this community. So what are we saying if our kids aren't getting what they need in the schools that they're attending? Then we as a community have to rally. We as elders and adults and whoever you are, bring your strengths to the table. There's a place for everyone so that together we can become one.
Yes.
Together, whatever happened in my generation happened in my generation. But what we can help this next generation do is see the potential in their own talents and their own strengths. And I think, and learn from the history so that we hopefully don't repeat that history. And so I think the Cultural Center, first and foremost, has that obligation to share the African American culture. Right now, if you go there, there is a wall that has Black females in leadership positions currently in Long Beach. It covers the whole wall. The new head of our health department is an
Mm-hmm.
African American female who happens to be an AKA, if you want to go into the sororities and things like that. We have African American leadership in the education system with Dr. Karen Schutham's Gunn, who is the provost at Cal State Long Beach. Lo and behold, she's from Tuskegee, Alabama. I'm from Mobile, Alabama. I said, wow, Sisms, I know that name. And I thought about, I said, was your dad a football coach? And she said, yeah. I'm like, oh, dude, your father was at my house 3 weekends in a row trying to recruit me to come play football at Tuskegee University. Talk about a small world, right? Here we are sitting
Yes.
in Long Beach. Right
Uh-huh.
here outside my window is the ocean right here now. And and here we meet two people from different places in Alabama, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
how big a small world can be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So to the point of the cultural center, we're trying to preserve the history, we're trying to promote the history, we're trying to embrace the history. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so within 6 months of me becoming president, I'm in Germany on vacation, uh, and my cell phone rings. And I answer it, and my girlfriend's looking at me like, "What the heck? You're doing business, and we're trying to enjoy ourselves." And it was Darick. I'm like, "Yeah." Well, this is Robert. I'm like Mayor Robert? He's like, yeah. He's like, you know how much I like hip hop music. And I'm like, okay. You like hip hop music? He's like, yeah. And before I leave office, I want to make sure that we create through the AACC the Long Beach Impact on the History of Hip Hop Music exhibit. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's a good thing. I said, as a matter of fact, Mayor, right now, there are 5 young men walking around Heidelberg, Germany with a VIP Records t-shirt on, singing.
Wow.
And I know for a fact because I brought them to them. And the first thing they said was, oh, Snoop Dogg. They didn't say, oh, Queen Mary. They didn't say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, Grand Prix. Universally, Long Beach is known for what? For its African American history, its
Yep.
African American heritage, right? I mean, it's known for many things without question. But if you're looking at a certain generation, this is one of the number one things, even multiple generations, frankly speaking. And the reality I find is that we have not just that heritage, but many other things that we can be proud of as an African American community in terms of leadership. Dr. Carl Cohn was called the father of school uniforms at one point in time, right? Um, we have different people like Mr. Bill Barnes, who was once the provost at Long Beach City College. I mean, we could go on and on with Black leaders in different walks of life that have done a great job here. Dr. Alex Norman, he and I are in the Smithsonian together.
Oh
Uh,
my
he
goodness.
he asked me to do the interview of him for the Smithsonian, one of the proudest days of my life. Uh, so, so I want to be able to, as I'm history, I'm Black history, right? There are many of my colleagues who are walking in this city that are African American history. And I think that it's important and incumbent upon us, just like it is for any other culture in our community, to capture that history in a way that it can be revisited by those that come after us to make their own decisions about what is their reality in a given time. They don't have to trust what someone else said. They have the facts. And I think that's the part of the preserving African American history that's a part of our mission, is to be able to capture these things. I want to, like Evelyn Knight is 90
Mm-hmm.
years old. She just turned 90. She grew up in Africa Town, which is a part of Mobile, Alabama, again, my hometown. That's where the slave ship Clotilde was just found about 2 years ago. And the slave ship Clotilde
Mm-hmm.
was the last ship to bring slaves into the United States after the prohibition of slavery. The captain bet that he could get one more ship of slaves through the blockade. He got them off in Mobile Bay. They settled in this little area of Mobile, and they now call it Africa Town. And he burned the ship and sank it so that he wouldn't be in trouble for breaking the blockade. They just found that ship about 3 years ago, and CNN
Wow.
featured that story. But Evelyn Knight is part of that history. She can go back to some of the ancestors that were, from the lineage of that ship. She's living history. So I'm trying to find ways, just like you're interviewing me, to capture those stories of leadership here in this community so that our kids can play that back. They
Right.
can hear it because it's not in the books in the schools. It's not in many of the books in the libraries, but they have to dig for it. And if you think about it, not a lot of
Mm-hmm.
kids are going to the library these days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're being educated by this,
Right.
right? And that's scary because they don't know how to filter this.
And this is precisely why we have to highlight the center, the African American Cultural Center, why we have to talk about why the center is here, why it's so important to create and help support the development of an institution that holds so much. It's not just the history and the stories and the amazing connection, which is what I'm learning just through this interview with you, but the amazing connection that Long Beach has to other threads of history that you would never otherwise, like, you would never make those connections, you wouldn't know to make those connections. um so wow, I'm so inspired by everything you're sharing, Darick, and I'm glad that there was this persistence, this movement, because you have such focus and such passion around the mission of the organization. Now, lately, the center has been hosting different. You talked about an art exhibit. There's been different events. There's also events that kind of host music as well. Can you talk a little bit more about what is the center doing now? What have been maybe in the last year, couple of years, some of the areas of focus?
Yeah. Well, we're going through a reset, frankly. I've been on board about a year now, a year and a month.
Hmm.
And though we have some funding, gratefully, from the city, we need more to get ourselves on our feet. We could literally fill up the expo with exhibits and different spaces that we can meet. One of the things, for instance, that I'm working on is Cal State Long Beach possibly has students that are pursuing education as a career. And I'm thinking, well, if 85% of African American students in Long Beach Unified Schools are 1 or 2 years behind, wouldn't it be cool that we could have African American students who want to be teachers at the university come and be tutors and
Mm-hmm.
mentors for youth at the cultural center? And we be the hub for education. We be the hub for inspiration. We be the place where you come to hear about what positive possibilities. Dr. Matthew Jenkins also was a resident. He passed a few years ago, but Roberta Jenkins still lives here. Dr. Matthew Jenkins went to Tuskegee, but he created pet insurance, African American man. He created pet insurance, right? And Dr. Roberta Jenkins is still here, but we're working on that as a project. One local financial institution asked us about maybe hosting seminars on estate planning so that we can learn how to pass on generational wealth. So our dilemma is that we have just enough funding to keep things moving, but not enough funding to get us to that exponential next step, right? And so
Yes.
what I'm trying to do is build a solid foundation so that when that funding does come, that structurally speaking, we're ready, right, for building on the other layers. I would like for us to be a source of the exhibits, yes. I would like for us to be a go-to place for meetings of organizations with African American history in mind, but not just the history, but the future. How can we be a
Hmm.
part of that? When I speak to youth, I tell them that the reality is that 80% of the jobs that will exist in 10 years may not exist right now.
Right.
If you look at the reality, this is an iPhone 14. What happened 15 years ago, right? What were we talking on back then? If this was, and this is a big part of our life. So if you just think about who knew of Tesla 10 years ago, you know? So it's just, if we go on, we can see the reality of how fast things are changing. And I would hope that not only can we be, as a cultural center, a place where you can come and experience our history, but it also can be a place where you can come and be empowered to be your best you in our future. And I think that's important for teens to see. If they're not getting, and the little ones to see, that yes, we had a struggle. Everybody has a struggle at some point. But what do you do with that struggle to become a stronger you? The most beautiful of flowers are grown out of manure, right? So we can turn life around and be a beautiful thing. And I think that intimidates some people, that we can become these beautiful, powerful influences in our community, right? To say that we're not asking for anything but what we've earned and what we deserve. And that is a place at the table where we have a
Yeah.
voice that not is just spoken, but is heard.
And the center becomes this nexus point. And I think this is what I'm hearing you say and I'm hearing you describe, and it's wonderful to think about. Yes, you're a place, your community leaders where you are holding that bridge where the past and the richness of the past and everything that's happened and through conduits of art or conduits of history can
Mhm.
also like converge in this place where then you're being very intentional about how you're supporting the next generation. And
Yeah.
that's great to hear that there's really an outlook for, are there initiatives, are there maybe programmatic opportunities, right? Is almost where I think
Mhm.
if I'm sensing your vision, if I'm hearing your vision, there's intentionality to move in that direction.
There is. I mean, in fact, Jackie Quarles is our program committee, and she has a drum and dance class. And so, if you want to learn about African drum and dance, we have Femi, who is teaching about African American history all the way back to biblical time. I mean, brother's so deep; it's an abyss of knowledge. I mean, he's bringing it, right? And so, we have key people in key places. We're just on the precipice of that next step,
Hmm.
right? And I keep having some people say, you guys need a bigger place. Well, that's easier said than done, but uh, I would rather be excellent in a few things than mediocre in many things. And so I want to be excellent in that little tiny space that you walk into. I want it to be like this life-changing experience, literally, because hopefully you've seen something or heard something or experienced something that made you pause and think about, what's current because of whatever you saw historically or whatever you see that might represent the future. And I think that children of all color, people of all color, I think that's the beauty of First Fridays is that that whole expo has hundreds of people coming in because it's a big open house.
Hmm.
And they just happen to be there in the AACC, so they come in. And I'm always amazed at how they walk out like, wow, I didn't know that. So, and so I think
Yeah.
that's what we've got to do. We've got to be at our best. Our board is working hard. We're a working board. We have 0.25 staff, so it's not even a full staff person. So we're still trying to fly. We've got a long way to go, but I think we have a lot to be proud of. I'm proud of our mayor, Rex Richardson. Prior to him, Robert Garcia. Lena Gonzalez, our state senator, had her African American history event here, and there was a dance group called Gravity of these young brothers, young
Mm.
sisters, maybe in elementary and middle school. Oh, amazing, amazing talent, right? And so I want to be able to lift these kids up and these families up, and I want to be able to collect uh, artifacts now from families who have icons in their families and different things that we can start. And that's what we're trying to do now is curate our own exhibits, buy pictures, buy things from families that represent African American history and give you tribute to that. That, hey, this is from the Smith family, or this is from the Simpson family, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But it's from your family, but now it's serving a greater good because it's showing other kids and other cultures possibly just what it is like being in the skin of an African American person. I grew up in Mobile, Alabama. My first time being in trouble in the school was because I dared to ask a white female to the county fair in the seventh grade. It was my first year
Mm.
in an integrated school, and hey, she was a girl, right? So
Mhm.
how often are kids being slapped down for just being a kid that's exploring, they don't see color, they just see a friend, right? So I'm using my own learned experiences. You know, People say, how'd you become a speaker? Well, I had to read in the Catholic Church. I read the epistle on Sunday. There's nothing like reading in front of your friends on the front row, making faces at you, trying to make you laugh. And all the elders are in the back of the church, not knowing why you're looking like that, right? And so I think we all need to take a look at the instances in life that help to contribute to the successes that we are at this point in life. I think we just go through those experiences and not pause to embrace them as to, well, what did that contribute to me being my best me? And that's what I hope the Cultural Center will do. It will have artifacts, it will have experiences, classes, if you are listening to this and you feel like you have something positive to add, we're the place to be. I don't care what color you are, green, purple, black. If you've got something positive to add to the story of African American history, then the African American Cultural Center of Long Beach wants to talk to you. We want to hear about you and be a part of that.
And you know, how inspiring. And thank you so much. Thanks for sharing all of that because it's so inspiring to hear that again, there's a lot of, intentionality and planning and really looking at where are all of these connecting points? Like how can we really harness where our community is now to really, continue to provide more of a place where this education and these connections are actually happening. And with that, let me just say, Darick, that if anyone wants to learn more about the African American Cultural Center, your website does a pretty good job of just posting where things are. Would you like me to share that address?
Yeah, please, because don't
That's
test my memory and everything.
www.AACCLB, as in Long Beach,
Yep.
.org.
Yeah.
And there is a page where you can go and, just click on contact. And
Mhm.
I believe there's an information sheet and an email that anyone who's interested in and who's, who wants to do more with the center, collaborate more, learn more about what's going on, they can find out more information. Darick, as we close the interview today, there were so many great inspiring moments from our interview today. But is there anything that you want to leave viewers with?
I just say that there's a place for everyone who's viewing this at the table of the African American Cultural Center Long Beach. We just need you to come to the table and uh, help us help our community present and the community that's to come behind us. We are honored to serve as volunteers. We're growing. We're going to make a big difference, but it takes a collective effort, and it takes everyone being forgiving in their hearts as we make mistakes, but also strong in our will to serve a greater good. And I believe that our board is committed to that. I'm proud to serve with them. And I know that our political leaders in this city believe in us because they've supported us from the mayor's office down, from Congress down, frankly, when you think
Mhm.
about former Mayor Garcia and people from different walks of life. Now that they're hearing about us, are stepping up. Go to our website, sign up. We're trying to have value add to becoming a member. The Carpenter Center is giving a discount. Branford Marcellus, I think, is performing there
Oh my goodness.
next couple of weeks. You can get discounts on that ticket. So Megan at the Carpenter Center has stepped up and says, hey, we want to be a partner with you. So people are coming to the table now that they know that this is a place to be. And if you do the right thing, good things happen. And we're certainly committed as a board, small but mighty, and to go to the next level. So thank you for this opportunity to share our story because
Abs-
Black history is American history, and American
Absolutely.
history is Long Beach history.
Absolutely. What a pleasure it was to learn more
Absolutely.
about the African American Cultural Center of Long Beach and to learn more about you, Darick. Really appreciate your time with us today.
Well, it's my pleasure and my honor to serve. So thank you, and I wish you all the best as well. Is this going in a loop or something? I go home and say, hey, I was on Facebook around the world.
Yes, we'll make sure to share the link and also the video file afterwards. But anyhow,
Okay.
everyone, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you tuning in today.
Thanks, everyone, and thank you.